In this week's Parsha, Parshat Chukat, we read, of course, about the sin of Moshe, and this is one of the most obscure passages in the Torah because it's completely unclear what exactly did Moshe do wrong. It's clear that Hashem tells him that he didn't sanctify Hashem's name, he missed the opportunity to do a great Kiddush Hashem. But what exactly did he do wrong? Of course, the opinion of Rashi is well known that Moshe was supposed to talk to the rock instead of hitting it. But there are many different other opinions. There are more than 10 different opinions. What exactly did Moshe do? As one rabbi said, almost jokingly, that Moshe did one sin, and the various commentators attributed to him over 10 different sins. So we don't really know what Moshe did, and most likely the reason we don't know is because it was the original intent of the Torah not to tell us what the sin of Moshe was. It certainly was a very minor sin. It's something that if Moshe misunderstood something here, then certainly we wouldn't understand. But whatever it was some kind of a missed opportunity of sanctification of the divine name. But what I wanted to mention today is something that's much less known. What I said until now is probably well known, but something that very few people know is the Shita of Bechor Shor. There was such a person, a Baal Tosafot, the people who we call Tosafot. Many of them were students of Rashi, some of them were his own descendants. Of course, the main commentary to the Talmud besides Rashi is the Tosafot. On all the regular editions of the Talmud, on the page, there are usually two commentators written. Rashi, in those tractates where there is Rashi, and Tosafot. Tosafot includes such great people as Rabbeinu Tam, grandson of Rashi, his brother Rabbeinu Shmuel, Rav Rashbam, and his great-grandson, Rashi's great-grandson, Rabbi Yitzchak, Ri, as they say, abbreviation, Reish Yud, Ri. That's the main Baal Tosafot who is quoted the most. And many other great rabbis, some of whom are quoted only a few times. And one of the great Balei Tosafot was somebody named Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor. I don't know if we should treat Bechor Shor as a kind of last name. There were no last names yet, at least among the Jewish people. I think in Arabic countries already at that time many Jews had last names, but in European countries there were no last names, neither by Jews nor by non-Jews. It came much later. But there were sometimes people who were given a kinui. After all, Rabbeinu Tam also, Tam was not his name. His name was Rabbi Yaakov. But because in the Torah it says Yaakov ish Tam, so he was called Rabbeinu Yaakov Tam. And similarly, Rabbi Yosef, because in the Torah the blessings of Yosef include Bechor Shor Hadar Lo, therefore they used to call him Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor. So in a way it was, I don't want to call it a nickname, but it was a kind of additional name. It's not exactly the last name or surname, but it was an additional name that he was given, a kind of kinui, Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor. That's how he's always called. So he's mentioned a few times in the Tosafot, not that often. He's nowhere near as famous as Rabbeinu Tam. But his commentary to the Torah is quite well known and well quoted. By the way, there are various collections of the Tosafot themselves, the Balei Tosafot, that are written as a commentary to the Torah. In many editions of the Torah, you find something called Hadar Skenim or Dat Skenim. I think Dat Skenim is more famous. Many editions of the Chumash have Dat Skenim, and some editions have also Hadar Skenim. And both Dat Skenim and Hadar Skenim quote Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor on this episode. And also a number of other Balei Tosafot and other commentators quote him, for instance, Paneach Raza. So this was a well-known shit of Bechor Shor, and of course this is also printed in the commentaries of Bechor Shor. We have this commentary survived. It's not something that's just survived through the quotes from other commentaries. No, but we do have Bechor Shor to the Torah. He is very unusual in his approaches. Many of his commentaries are very, very different from everybody else. It's very useful to learn Bechor Shor commentary. And in particular, in this case, his great Chidush, and as I said, it's well quoted by many other commentaries, some of whom argue with him, but many of whom quote without without any arguments, so they seem to agree. And that is an absolutely fantastic idea, I would say. And that is, of course, we know there was another episode, very similar, it seems, in the Parshat Beshalach. The Jewish people had no water, they were thirsty, and they complained, and Hashem told Moshe to strike the rock, and the water came. So almost all the commentators assume that these were two different episodes. Certainly there is no way to consider this the same episode if you think that the sin of Moshe was, like Rashi says, striking the rock. In this case, in our Parsha. Because in the Parshat Beshalach, he was told to strike the rock. So obviously it's two different episodes. The first time he was told to strike the rock, the second time he was told to speak to the rock. So if the sin of Moshe was the fact that he struck the rock in our Parsha, then obviously this is not the same story as the one in Beshalach. In fact, it seems that the story in Beshalach happened soon after the Exodus from Egypt, as opposed to our story that happened in the last year. Even though our Parsha doesn't clearly say it, but it seems to imply that Miriam died in the last year of the desert, and soon afterwards was the episode of the Jewish people being thirsty and the sin of Moshe, and then soon after that Aaron dies. Miriam died in Nisan, the first month, and Aaron died in the 5th month, what we call Av. Of course, the words Nisan and Av are later words, but the Torah calls it the 1st month, the 5th month. So the episode of the sin of Moshe must have happened also soon after the death of Miriam, and that's how Chazal understand it. So it would seem that these are two completely different episodes, and as I said, according to Rashi, what was the right thing to do, and that is striking the rock, became something that was the wrong thing to do in our Parsha. But Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor suggests that it's all the same episode. Whatever is written in the Parshat Beshalach is a kind of prelude, a summary of what would happen much, much later. And it's really talking about, of course, Torah isn't always chronological, we know that, and the Chazal talk about it. We just saw it in the beginning of the book of Bamidbar, where we had episodes that were written not in chronological order. So it's possible, in fact, that whatever is written in the Parshat Beshalach is actually a summary of what happened now, Parsha. And of course, then you must say that the fact that Moshe struck the rock was not his sin at all. In fact, he was told to strike the rock, as the Parshat Beshalach tells us. So whatever Moshe did was wrong, and as I mentioned, there are a lot of interpretations. What exactly was it that he did? But according to this, it wasn't that he did not just speak to the rock. One possibility is that he did not convince the people fully the magnitude of the miracle, right? Even though striking the rock itself is not a problem, but he had to describe it clearly as Hashem is going to do a miracle for you, and use the opportunity. The people were also wrong in complaining and instead of trusting Hashem. But once they complained, Moshe could have used this as an opportunity to increase their emunah, their faith. And instead, he got angry at them and said, "Listen, you rebels!" And ultimately, the way he said it, "Will Hashem give water to you from this rock?" It sounded kind of as a doubt itself. He didn't use the opportunity correctly to fully bring the people to a complete trust, complete emunah. And that apparently was the sin that was counted for him. But as I said, there are many different suggestions exactly what he did wrong, including Kabbalistic ones, and of course those are far beyond our short lecture. One thing that, of course, a lot of people heard is that Abarbanel suggests that the main sin of Moshe already happened before that, and so did the sin of Aaron. This was more of a minor issue that Hashem ultimately said his decree, but it was not the cause of the punishment. The cause of the punishment was for something else that Moshe did before. And on this I'm going to end for today, and if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.